Everybody knows each other in these anti-Trump hoaxes and these Obama-era scandals. Everybody's covering up for everybody. And unbelievably, the Obama fixer, the fixer is back. So the fixer is back. Who is the fixer? Do you all remember Catherine Rumler? I did a show that went, I know you do, that went guano crazy a long time ago.
Huge. Yeah.
About how it was awfully weird that Obama's White House lawyer, as we can see from this screen cap here, a woman by the name of Catherine Rumler, keeps appearing as an advisor, a legal advisor, a source on an email in just about every Obama-era scandal. Catherine Rumler, Obama's former White House counsel. There you go. There's her name right there. Just put that up there in case, because we do facts on the show. Now, that may not surprise you that Obama's lawyer, White House lawyer, would be involved in Obama-era scandals. But I just want to set the groundwork here because she's appearing in another post-Obama-era scandal involving an Obama-era scandal, and she seems to never go away.
Again.
Interesting. Believe it or not, Joe. And it's fascinating how when Obama had the opportunity to describe what Catherine Rumler's specialty was, he said something very interesting. So let's lay out first how Obama's White House counsel, Catherine Rumler's White House lawyer, has been intimately involved in all of his nonsense and how she's covering something else up. Let's check out this first story here. So, remember the Secret Service scandal? Listen, it's in my first book if you want to read it, Life Inside the Bubble, where I address some of that stuff. But here's a story by Sidney Powell, who ironically is Mike Flynn's lawyer now because she understands, she knows all this stuff. She wrote a book on it, actually. Sex lies in the White House counsel. Rumler blunders into Secret Service mess. So Catherine Rumler, Obama's lawyer, for those of you who don't remember, there was some Secret Service folks in Colombia involved in this mess. It was something I knew a lot about. Again, it's in my book if you want to hear about it. But in that mess, there were allegedly some White House staffers involved as well, and Catherine Rumler was involved in making this whole thing kind of, according to some reporting at the time. She seems to know where a lot of the bodies are buried. Fascinating, because Obama described her in a very interesting way. Here's a New York Times article from a while back where Obama talks about how this relatively obscure attorney propelled herself into being one of the top advisors to Barack Obama and kind of like running interference for all of his scandals. This is the article. Departing White House counsel held powerful sway. Powerful sway. Why did she hold powerful sway in the White House? Let's see how Obama described her. And maybe it'll make a lot of sense how Rumler, the fixer, described often as Obama's fixer, keeps appearing everywhere. Quote, Barack Obama, Kathy has become one of my most trusted advisors over the past few years. I deeply value her smarts, her judgment, and her wit. Listen to this. Listen to this, beauty. But most importantly, her uncanny ability to see around corners nobody else anticipates. Wow, is that going to come back to haunt Barack Obama? So she has an uncanny ability like the X-Men to peer around corners and sense what's coming before it's coming. Convenient. She's always running interference for Barack Obama on a lot of these scandals. Wow, and how she keeps appearing now. Let's go to another one here. Let's go to this other screenshot from the New York Times where we see how she's been involved in other scandals as well. And she seems to be obsessed with executive privilege and keeping Obama's secrets really, really secret. We better bury them 6 feet deep, kind of like shallow Cuban graves. Quote, and Miss Rumler took a hard line in internal debates about keeping executive branch documents secret, like memos from the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel sought by congressional oversight or the Freedom of Information Act lawsuits. Her arguments that disclosing them would chill candid advice to the president have contributed to Mr. Obama's transition from promising greater transparency to being criticized even by his own allies for excessive secrecy. So, according to Barack Obama, his fixer, Catherine Rumler, has an uncanny ability to see what's going to come out of Barack Obama from around the corner. And she seems obsessed with executive secrecy. Mr. Obama, we need to keep all of this quiet. Gee, what are they keeping quiet? Look where Rumler shows up again, even after she leaves the Obama White House, because the Obama White House is no longer the White House because President Trump wins the election. Catherine Rumler resurfaces again. Check this Politico piece out. Isn't this weird? The fixer is back. Always. She never goes away. Lawyer for Susan Rice. Obama administration is justifiably concerned about sharing intelligence with the Trump team. Who was that lawyer? Crazy. Catherine Rumler. What are the chances of that? The Obama fixer is representing Susan Rice, who, remember Susan Rice, who wrote the email right before Trump was to come into the White House, taking over for Barack Obama, that don't worry with the Spygate thing. We did everything by the book. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Remember the national security advisor at the time in the Obama White House was very concerned with sharing intelligence with the incoming president? Remember that? Well, Susan Rice had to go hire a lawyer. And who better to hire than the Obama fixer, who sees around corners and has expertise in keeping a lot of things secret? Folks, the subject of my third book on this topic. Everybody knows each other. And everybody has something to hide. And who better to hire for all of these scandals? Benghazi, the AP phone records, the Secret Service scandal, Spygate, and more coming up, than an expert in seeing around corners and making sure everything goes away under a blanket of executive privilege. She's at the center of all of this stuff. Oh, it gets better. You remember this doozy, George Nader? Remember Nader? Remember the names? Yes. You're like, Nader. Where do I remember that name? Yeah. George Nader. Oh, George Nader. You mean the guy that set up the meeting with a Trump associate in the Seychelles that I believe was a setup with the Russians to advance the Russian collusion narrative? That guy?
Yeah,
George Nader, for those of you who don't remember, according to multiple reports, is the guy, he sets up a meeting with Eric Prince, who's in a de facto associate of Trump because his sister is Betsy DeVos, Trump's education secretary. So just to be clear, a guy believed to be in the Trump orbit, Eric Prince, is approached by this guy, George Nader, about meeting with a Russian in the Seychelles. Conveniently, around the time the Democrats are trying to advance the narrative that the Russians are colluding with the Trump team. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe this was a setup the whole time. I've talked about this repeatedly. But the guy who sets up the meeting with the Russian, I believe, is part of an elaborate setup here. George Nader, conveniently, as we can see by this piece, is represented by who? No way. After long delays, a piece in American Greatness by Deborah Hine. Be in the show notes today, bongino.com/newsletter, if you want us to email you the show notes every day. After long delay, a key witness in the Mueller probe was arrested on child porn charges. Who was that? Crazy, but it was George Nader. Look at this piece.
Yeah.
George Nader, 60, was arrested Monday morning at JFK Airport, according to federal prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia. Nader was involved in several key meetings at the center of Bob Mueller's report. He shows up more than 100 times in the Mueller report. Throughout the investigation, Nader was represented by, come on now, guy, was represented by Catherine Rumler, Obama's longtime White House counsel and fixer, who sees around corners and is really good at burying things under mounds of executive privilege. So the guy who sets up a meeting with a Trump associate, loose associate, by the way, at best, with a Russian, as the Democrats are trying to advance a false narrative the Trump team is colluding with the Russians, later becomes an informant for Mueller, is arrested on child porn charges, and his lawyer, who magically shows up, Joe, of all the lawyers in a country of 350 million people, in a world measured in the billions, of all the lawyers who show up, magically the same lawyer involved in covering up the Secret Service scandal and covering up the AP phone record scandal and covering up Benghazi, involved in the IRS scandal, involved in the Susan Rice scandal, magically shows up to make sure Nader gets the best legal counsel possible. Wouldn't want him really talking about what he knows now, would we? Simply amazing how Rumler's name, the Obama fixer, keeps appearing, and yet the left, again, entirely unconcerned with their own dignity, the truth, or actual journalism, seems totally unprepared to address the question of how it is that every single person in the Mueller, not every single person, I want to be precise, I don't want to do what the leftists do. Large majorities of people who appear in Ukraine Gate, Impeachment Gate, Spy Gate, Mueller Gate, Secret Service Gate, IRS Gate, AP Gate, Nader Gate, IRS Gate, Benghazi Gate, I think I said the IRS twice, AP Phone Records Gate, that all of these people keep Enron Gate in the same circle of friends. Are you not even mildly perturbed that they know each other and they're all hiding things?
You just heard The Dan Bongino Show. You can also get Dan's podcasts on iTunes or SoundCloud and follow Dan on Twitter 24/7 @DBongino.